Following the tragic events that took place over the weekend, Travis Scott and the companies that put on the Astroworld Festival are getting served with multiple lawsuits. One lawsuit even names Drake partially responsible for the tragedy. 3 fans who claim they sustained injuries at the Astroworld Festival had filed lawsuits in the wake of the disaster, which left 8 people dead. Travis Scott is named in all 3 of the lawsuits. The first suit was filed by Manuel Souza, who said he was injured during the chaos. The suit argues that the organizers of the festival blatantly ignored potential warning signs that compromised the safety of the event before the performances even started. This is proved by witness videos that show countless fans jumping over and then breaking down one of the fences at the festival. This happened in broad daylight before the festival had even started, and people were seen stomping on one another while rushing to get in. The suit continues to lay blame on the show's organizers for allowing Scott's performance to continue even after ambulances had arrived to treat attendees who had, quote, suffered serious obvious injury. Steve Kirker, Souza's attorney, said in a statement, quote, eventually due to the defendant's active decision to let the show go on, the scene devolved into a complete melee, resulting in the needless, untimely death of at least 8 people and injuries to scores of others. The suit also claimed that the incident happened in the name of profits at the expense of concertgoers' health and safety, along with encouragement of violence by Scott himself. This comes after reports claim that Travis told people to hop over the fences at the event and defy other safety protocols. Live Nation, Score More, and Scott's Cactus Jack Records and multiple other individuals and companies are also named in the suit, and the defendant is seeking $1 million in damages. 2 other individuals, Kristen Paradis and Patrick Stennis, are also suing Scott, Live Nation, and Score More for negligence. But Kristen Paradis' lawsuit also blames Drake in part for the incident. Their suit says that Drake, quote, came on stage alongside Travis Scott and helped incite the crowd before the horrific event took place. He accuses Drake of continuing to perform with Travis Scott, quote, as the crowd became out of control and while the crowd mayhem continued. The tragic event took place on Friday, November 5th, with 8 deaths, scores of injuries, and multiple incidents of cardiac arrest. The youngest person who passed away was 14 years old. Score More released a statement on Monday writing, quote, throughout the weekend we have been working to provide local authorities with everything they need from us in order to complete their investigation and get everyone the answers they are looking for. No other additional comments were made. It was also just reported that Houston police warned Travis about crowd control and expressed safety concerns before the event even started, so it seems that many saw this disaster coming.
Kylie Jenner, Travis Scott, and Drake are getting a ton of backlash right now after it was revealed that they went to an after party following the tragic incident that took place at Astroworld. According to them, they were completely unaware of what had happened until they were notified at the after party. Kylie and Travis were allegedly partying at Dave & Buster's in Houston at a party hosted by Drake following the horrible event that happened at the Astroworld Festival. According to reports, this is where Travis also was notified that 8 people had lost their lives during his show and hundreds more had been injured by a crowd surge. TMZ reported that Travis immediately left the party after finding out. One source goes on to say, Travis didn't know the severity of the situation when he arrived at the party. As far as timing, this remains consistent with the fact that no one, including the police, had publicly confirmed the gravity of the events that had taken place. The party that everyone went to afterwards was apparently a pre-scheduled event hosted by Drake, as I mentioned earlier, who also allegedly had no idea that anything awful had taken place during the festival. Another source close to this after-party celebration said that most of them did in fact know that people had died during the show, but that they didn't take it seriously because they assumed that it had something to do with drugs. They go on to say, everyone knew people died, but it wasn't taken that seriously because some thought it was drug deaths they didn't realize, but celebrities, they should have just had grace and canceled everything. Shortly after all of the news began to come out regarding the horrifying details of the event, Drake broke his silence on the matter and said, I spent the past few days trying to wrap my mind around this devastating tragedy. I hate resorting to this platform to express an emotion as delicate as grief, but this is where I find myself. My heart is broken for the families and friends of those who lost their lives and for anyone who is suffering. I will continue to pray for all of them and will be of service in any way I can. May God be with you all. So far, concertgoers have filed 17 lawsuits that allege Travis and Live Nation were solely responsible for the deadly crowd surge. One of the lawsuits specifically is from the family of 9-year-old Ezra Blount. Right now, Ezra is in a medically induced coma as doctors are working to fix the trauma and damage done to his brain. In charge of this legal matter is famed civil rights attorney Ben Crump. Ben also worked as an attorney for George Floyd's family, and in the lawsuit he writes that Ezra was kicked, stepped on, and trampled as he watched other people people pick up unconscious bodies of friends and strangers and surf them over top of the crowd, hoping to send them to safety. Ezra was sitting on his father's shoulders during the concert to make sure that he was up and out of the crowd. However, during the crowd surge and chaos that ensued, Ezra's father was overwhelmed by the crowd and ended up getting knocked over. Ezra then fell to the ground from his father's shoulders and was trampled by other attendees before someone finally rescued him and got him to the hospital. According to the lawsuit, his injuries will severely affect his ability to grow and thrive. The more personal accounts that we hear from people that attended the event, the more disturbing this whole situation becomes. There's no question that medical staff and police were not prepared for what went down in Houston. A woman named Madeline Eskins, who attended the concert and confirmed with the press that she was an ICU nurse, said that after being crushed by the crowd near the front of the stage, she fell unconscious. She was then apparently crowd surfed out of the packed area and woke up with a water bottle in her lap and no clue as to what just happened. As she looked around, she claimed to have witnessed other people being carried out with their eyes rolled back and bleeding from their nose and mouth. A security guard even asked her to help them resuscitate other people who had been pulled out of the crowd. She goes on to say in a post about the event, "Some of these medical staff have little to no experience with CPR, didn't know how to check a pulse, carotid, or femoral." She said that some people who had pulses were getting unneeded CPR, but that there weren't enough people to do CPR on individuals that were actually pulseless, adding, "The medical staff didn't have the tools to do their jobs, and despite the crowd around us trying to get someone to stop the concert, they just kept going," even though Travis acknowledged that someone in the crowd needed an ambulance. So my question is that after witnessing all of this chaos and seeing an ambulance literally drive through the crowd of his festival, how in the world can Travis Scott say that he cares about his fans, or that he didn't know the severity of the situation until he got to that after party? He shouldn't have made it that far before someone notified him of what was happening. All of those people were there to see him perform, so in a few words, Travis could have controlled that entire crowd and just calmed things down. He stopped the show a few times, noticing when someone had passed out, but I just don't get how you can see that happen and then go on to tell people who want the show to stop that, quote, "You know why you came here." He then told them he wanted the crowd to make the ground shake, which must have just been the most terrifying thing in the world to hear if you're being knocked onto the ground and just can't get back up. My heart really goes out to these poor EMTs that had to continuously work on trying to revive people in this chaos and by themselves in most situations. Another TikTok user who claimed to be a medic at the event said that he was on his way to assist another medic and he had to actually go out of his way to save other people because they were just passing out left, right, and center. Anyone who has performed CPR knows that it gets tiring, so that's why there should always be a team of 2 people. That way you can switch back and forth and really assist each other in saving a life. But that wasn't an option at this moment, and now we are seeing the tragic results. Alec Baldwin's daughter is not only defending Travis Scott following the disaster at Astroworld, but she is also oddly comparing it to the Rust shooting that her father was involved with. Alec Baldwin's daughter Ireland is now comparing the public reaction to her father's accidental shooting on the set of Rust to this Astroworld Festival disaster. In a since deleted Instagram story, Ireland claimed that the criticism of Travis Scott following the deadly event was due to misinformation and twisted cancel culture BS. However, at the same time, she also mentioned that he has incited rage and riots at his past gigs, which means she at least understands that Travis Scott concerts get dangerous while he's performing. In her Instagram story, Ireland Baldwin writes, "Y'all are really killing me these days. You believe everything that you see on Twitter and TikTok and completely bandwagon on spreading misinformation. First, you were armory/stunt coordination pros when it came to the horrific tragedy involving my dad, and now Travis Scott is demonic because allowed people to die at his show. I'll start by saying I am heartbroken for the families who lost a loved one. Everyone should feel safe when they're going to enjoy live music, but it's not Travis Scott's fault. Any actual musician would validate that you can't see or hear anyone up there, especially when wearing in-ear monitors. Come on people, do a little research before you go spewing cancel culture BS. People lost their children at this show, and all you've got to say is that Travis Scott's music is demonic and he belongs in prison." And the amount of contradictions in this post are astounding. She goes from saying that no one should get hurt listening to live music and then tries to say that Travis shouldn't be at all responsible when people get hurt listening to his music. I mean, he literally has lyrics that talk about people getting hurt at his shows. In the song Stargazing, he says in one verse, "Got new money, got new problems, got new enemies. When you make it to the top, that's the amenities. Packing out Toyota like I'm in the league, and it ain't a mosh pit if it ain't no injuries. I got him stage diving out the nosebleeds." Another thing that bothered me is the ignorance of this comparison. It's disrespectful to both Helena Hutchins and the people that lost their lives at Astroworld. I'm sure that there are lots of people spreading misinformation, but the assumption that every person on the internet is some uneducated troll is ridiculous on its face. There have been a ton of people who worked at this event, a ton of people who attended this event, and now the way of sharing information through social media means that people can have more context as to what had happened, instead of it just being a lower third on some mainstream news channel. I guarantee the Houston police are going going through the footage, and this may end up assisting them a lot more than Ireland thinks. According to Mail Online, Ireland Baldwin added to her earlier statement in a second post and said, "I have a pretty solid idea. Maybe we should stick to what we actually know, stop making assumptions, stop spreading misinformation, and educate ourselves on the things we know nothing about." Again, who made her the arbiter of truth? How does she know that the people talking about this situation aren't educated on what they're talking about? Of course, it's good to educate ourselves on things that we know nothing about, and I agree that people need to make less assumptions, but you can't ask for the flow of information to just stop. You can only choose which content that you want to engage with. If you keep watching videos of why Travis Scott is a demon and why this was a satanic ritual, well then dare I say you may be spending a little too much time watching conspiracy theory videos on TikTok. The algorithm just feeds you what you engage with most. So all this Ireland Baldwin post tells me is that she's been engaging a lot with misinformation instead of the actual good info that exists out there regarding this tragic event. I also don't like that she tried to make this tragedy about her family while also condemning people for not caring more about the victims of Astroworld and only wanting to spread misinformation. The funny thing about evil people is that they see evil in everyone else except for themselves. Ireland wrote in a third post, "Okay, I'm done reading shit on the internet I think forever. I am in no way defending Travis Scott because honestly I don't know him or care personally, and the only aspect of this I care about is that people died because this brand new festival neglected to have the proper safety protocols in place." She then later explained why she deleted these Instagram stories and said, "People on the internet are scary and misinformed. All that matters are the families of those who died in the Astroworld tragedy. My heart breaks for them. The point I was trying to make was stop rage blaming, make informed opinions and posts. So many people are at fault, not just one person." Indeed, many people are at fault for this, but to say that Travis should be blamed at all is a little bit ridiculous.
Following the tragic events that took place at Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival, a petition is gaining traction asking to cancel Scott's Coachella performance. Following the event, 8 people have been pronounced dead, and hundreds of others are injured, some in critical condition. Travis first issued a statement giving his thoughts and prayers to the families. Later, he uploaded an Instagram story video looking disheveled and reiterating that he loves every one of his fans and is doing everything possible to help the families of the deceased. He also announced he will be issuing refunds. Since the event, tons of videos have been going viral showing the audience members' point of view during the situation. Some of the videos even show Travis feet away from someone being resuscitated, but not stopping the show. Another shows 2 men coming on stage to talk to Travis after the music had stopped, but Travis deciding to continue on with the show anyway. All of the content is making fans believe that Travis saw people were hurt, but still decided to do nothing. It's also been reported that Travis was warned about crowd control before the festival by police, so clearly he was aware the disaster could strike. A petition has been created calling on the co-founder of the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, Paul Tollett, to drop Travis Scott from the event that will be held April of 2022. The Change.org petition was created 2 days ago by Sendero Secreto. The summary of the petition states, "With the recent tragic and unnecessary death at Travis Scott's Astroworld concert, due to Scott's own gross negligence and sheer lack of compassion for human life, we ask AEG, Paul Tollett, and Golden Voice to remove him as a performer at all of their festivals." The petition now has close to 20,000 signatures. The creator also posted an update after Travis's video apology, saying, "After watching Travis Scott's apology video, it's very clear that he's trying to avoid blame in the unnecessary deaths of his fans. At no point in his video apology did we think he was genuinely sorry for the loss of lives at his concert. Please start sharing this petition so we can make our voices heard." One comment on the petition read, "Travis Scott cannot be trusted with headlining a set or any festival set with his disorderly conduct." Another said, "After viewing hours of clips of video, I do not believe he didn't know something was wrong. He has been arrested twice for encouraging his audience to act exactly like they did, except this time lives were lost. He did pause 4 times. He could have taken time to shine the light into the crowd, as we've all seen professionals do, to make sure everyone is safe. Children died, he markets to children." After the event, Travis pulled out of the Day in Vegas festival that's taking place this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls out of more. I've been hearing a lot of people in the industry say that Travis is too big of an insurance liability to perform at any events until all the lawsuits are resolved. So I think it's safe to say he won't be asked to perform at any more festivals in the future, and I think it's highly likely that Coachella will drop him if he doesn't just pull out himself. Following the recent tragedy at the Astroworld Festival in Houston, people are realizing just how dangerous music festivals can be. That's why today we're going to be listing other terrible events that took place at festivals. And let's get into the top 10 worst things that happened at music festivals. In an number 10, the Astroworld Festival in 2021. This devastating tragedy is the most recent to take place, and investigators are still trying to put the pieces together of what actually happened. During Travis Scott's headlining performance at the Houston Festival, the crowd rushed towards the stage and many attendees were crushed together, unable to breathe. This caused people to pass out from lack of oxygen and exhaustion, then getting trampled on by other people. It's been reported that 8 people have lost their lives and over 300 were injured at the 50,000 person sold out show. Travis is known for his chaotic and high energy performances, so it was no surprise to many when this resulted in disaster. This is not the first time that fans have been harmed at his shows. One fan was left paralyzed after he jumped off a railing at a concert after another fan was encouraged to do so by Scott. As of now, Travis along with Live Nation are being sued by injured fans. In at number 9, Time Warp Argentina in 2016. The Time Warp Festival that took place in 2016 resulted in 6 people losing their lives. At festivals, it is not uncommon for people to sneak in illegal substances that are not allowed in and sell them to other festival goers. This is what happened here, but unfortunately the product that was being sold was poisoned, and of the people that ingested it, 6 passed away from acute poisoning. Because of the tragedy that took place on the first day of the festival, the second day was cancelled and all efforts were used to find the people responsible. The festival was also overcrowded and numerous people collapsed from heat exhaustion. The festival was so bad that Argentina actually passed a law banning any electronic music festivals from taking place in the country again. In at number 8, Roskilde Festival in 2000. This festival that took place in Denmark in 2000 led to the death of 9 people while Pearl Jam was performing. The deaths happened after a mosh pit became too rowdy and individuals started suffocating because of the lack of space. It was so tight that people in the crowd just didn't have the space to breathe properly. Following the event, it was discovered that the chain of command to stop the show was not fast enough to save lives, and it's speculated that the people may still be alive if the concert was stopped earlier. Pearl Jam recently released a statement to the victims' families on the 20-year anniversary of the tragedy. And at number 7, Mawazine Festival in 2009. 11 people died and 40 were injured after a stampede crushed attendees while they were trying to leave the festival. The festival took place in Morocco and 70,000 people attended to see performances from Kylie Minogue, Stevie Wonder, and Alicia Keys. After the concert was over, thousands of attendees were headed for the exit, but they were not secured properly by police. So concertgoers decided to break down one of the fences for a faster exit, but ended up crushing the people below them. The rush caused a fence to collapse and a stampede, resulting in fatalities and injuries, reports Reuters. And at number 6, Glastonbury in 2005. Thankfully, nobody lost their life at this festival, but it was a rainy, muddy disaster. The 2005 festival took place on a particularly rainy weekend, and it led to disaster. The grounds of the festival were so full of water that their feet and tents were underwater. Apparently, it was 6 feet deep in some areas. But this one gets very nasty. Since there was so much water, it flooded the porta potties, and the waste from the porta potties was mixed in with the water that everyone was stepping in. This led to many getting infections and even becoming seriously ill due to infection. But that's not all. At the 1990 festival, there was a clash with dumpster diving individuals after the festival and security. An eyewitness said the clash, quote, looked a bit like the old Wild West meets Mad Max. The festival paused for 1 year after to increase security. Halfway number 5, the Love Parade in 2010. The main issue with this 2010 festival held in Germany was the fact that concertgoers came and exited through a narrow concrete tunnel, which led to chaos when people wanted to leave quickly. During the festival, the event reached its maximum capacity, and the police decided to close off the entrance to stop more people from coming in. Then people were asked to leave calmly, but the exit turned into a stampede when people ran the other direction. This stampede led 21 people to lose their lives. At least 500 people were also injured. As a consequence of the tragedy, the organizer of the festival announced that no further love parades would be held and that the festival was permanently cancelled. And at number 4, Woodstock 1999. This festival can probably be compared to the Fire Festival, but the concert attendees actually decided to band together and help each other through the disastrous festival. Woodstock was supposed to symbolize peace and love, and it's remembered for being a key moment in the hippie movement. But at the end of the day, it was a complete disaster. The attendance for the festival was much higher than anticipated, so they didn't have the resources to give everyone food, water, and shelter. The event was also behind schedule, so the fences for the outside of the festival were not put up, and tons of people walked straight in without a ticket. There were many who were treated for heat stroke and not nearly enough water to go around. To make matters worse, at one point someone threw fake $100 bills into the crowd, which of course caused chaos. Then during the Red Hot Chili Peppers set, the crowd lit bonfires and flipped vehicles, causing a massive fire. 3 people died at the festival. And at number 3, Firefest 2017. This is probably the most infamous disaster because of the insane promotion and lavish nature of the event. The attendees paid up to $100,000 for tickets and were promised luxury on an island and great artists. The event was promoted by the likes of Bella Hadid and Kendall Jenner, so clearly they spent all the money on promotions. In the end, planes landed in the Caribbean island, but no artists actually showed up. The luxury food and shelter they were supposed to receive was actually just bread with cheese slices, along with staying in FEMA camps. The attendees were also stranded as the only way back was on a plane, so they were forced to wait in miserable conditions until the planes were able to take them back home again. The whole ordeal was chronicled in a Netflix documentary. And at number 2, Isle of Wight. 2012. This festival is another that was a muddy disaster. This festival took place on an island, so made the transportation a little more complicated than usual. This UK festival featured Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Pearl Jam, and Bruce Springsteen, but after the rain started, it made it difficult to get over by car or boat. Apparently 350 cars were locked in a gridlock towards the festival, causing 10-hour delays. Ferry riders were trapped as well thanks to problems with docking boats. Then when you arrived at the festival, there was mud everywhere. Thankfully nobody passed away and nobody was seriously harmed. And finally, at number 1, Route 91 Harvest Music Festival in 2017. This music festival that took place in 2017 in Las Vegas is labeled the deadliest mass in modern US history. 60 people were killed and hundreds injured after a shooter opened fire at the crowd from a room in the Mandalay Bay Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. Country singer Jason Aldean was on the stage playing when the shots started to fire. There were 22,000 people at the festival. The man responsible was later identified as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, who was a regular gambler at Las Vegas casinos. No motive was ever determined. Jake Owen, who had performed earlier on the last day of the 3-day festival, was standing to the side of the stage watching. He told ABC News, quote, "The scene was like watching a bad movie. Standing there, you could hear the shots starting to hit the roof of the stage and people were starting to flee everywhere." MGM Resorts International, which owns the hotel, reached an $800 million settlement with the injured and the deceased families in December of 2019.